address, your mail.stpeters@edu will cease to work at midnight on the 30th of, I should say midnight on October 1st, it'll cease to work. So if you haven't transitioned, if you have stuff on the old account, excuse me, make sure you transition it to the stpeters.edu domain, and make sure you do that before Friday night. Some of you, if you just started, you might not have much data on there, but if you've been around a while, you might have emails and stuff that you want to make sure you go through and archive. And there are directions on the St. Peter's website how to do that. They've been sending a couple of emails to that regard, so just make sure if you've got stuff on there, you get rid of it, or I should say, get rid of it, archive it. Otherwise, you're not going to have access to it. So, all right. So it's 9 o'clock, and I'm one of those for it's 9 o'clock. Special guest stars Dana Heimlich. Dana is a new instructional designer at St. Peter's. She's going to lurk, but more than she has more than an invite to participate. You never know with these things who's going to show up on the bottom of the screen. So, you know, we're happy that all of you are here. So tonight's discussion is about classroom management, and this is the one time in an online course where I think we have to do this online. We have to do this as face-to-face as the camera permits, because it's one of those things that there's really no book for. There's a lot of suggestions and whatnot, but it's something that I certainly can't teach, you know, and say, oh, here, after you look at these slides and you read this information, you're going to know how to manage your classroom. It's just one of those things that you have to try, and you know, it's trial and error. You see what happens. Some things work, some things don't work. So I'd ask you to take a look at 2 videos. Thank you. Interesting. I asked you to look at 2 videos, the Mr. Grimes video and the 2021. But I think I will get to them. I do want to start, though, if you are a reader of the Bergen Record or NorthJersey.com, here comes one of them. The headline, the big article today, after all of the stuff about Bridgegate, there was and now it's gone. Anybody see the article about the Patterson? A little bit about the Patterson school districts. Where did that article go? It's gone now. Anybody see what's going on in Patterson with K-12? Wide disparities reported in Patterson student suspensions. At 5 city elementary schools, more than 20% of students were subject to out-of-school suspensions, including 36%. There was a huge percentage of kids that were in K-2. So students in grades K-2, there were 238 kindergartners and first and second graders were sent home for days last school year, presumably for bad behavior. So I think it's an interesting, it's a good way to contrast. Okay, get it out. Get it out. We done? All right.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
No, I know. The children are most welcome. All right. Yeah, all right. Let's go. Goodbye. Upstairs. Okay, that's great. Eat it. Let's go. Thank you. Thank you. Can I teach now?
Yes.
Brian, go up and watch TV.
Okay.
Thank you. Good night. So I found it interesting, you know, you've got this, you know, and I'm sure it's not the only district, but with the video with 2020 about extreme discipline, and here you've got such a huge number of kids that are literally my children's age that are being suspended, you know, for behavior. So maybe we start there. Maybe we start that as we'll reverse the order and talk about the 2020 video first. You know, initial thoughts on classroom management, on discipline, and, you know, anything related to that. Anybody? Don't all speak at once.
Well, I was actually surprised at how in the 2020 video, the leap from an issue in the classroom whether it was that girl who was doodling on the desk or some other issue. And then from there, straight to the police. I mean, what happened to the principal's office, or what happened to just normal, normal punishments? Nothing so outrageous. I mean, I was pretty shocked. I had never seen that report before.
It's also kind of crazy to think that corporal punishment is still legal in certain states. I think that's insane. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, insane. I can't even imagine being a student and or being an administrator who has to paddle a child. This isn't a fraternity house. This is, a public school. It's crazy.
19 states still allow corporal punishment, according to the Washington Post.
Insane.
And that was as of 2014. Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, North Carolina, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee, Wyoming, and then, of course, I left out Texas because it goes to Texas. But, you've got 19 states where that is still acceptable. Okay, go. I got to teach. Come on. So I find, it's a good point that, some people think that that's still an appropriate punishment, that, get out the paddle or, anywhere in between. So, yeah, other thoughts on, other immediate thoughts about discipline, about extreme discipline? Anybody?
As a little kid, I actually went to school in Romania, and they have punishments like that, and I got beat by the teacher pretty hard, and I never understood, like, you miss a homework next time and you get beat. But when I came here, that outlook was so different that it made me like question, like, does it work? Does it not work? But what did work is made me hate the teacher, and made me like embarrassed to even come to class. I was disengaged from school assignments because I was afraid, like, if I get an answer wrong, I get beat. So I was afraid to speak out. So from personal experience, it made me hate school.
And that's a good point. First of all, that it will, any discipline you have to be very careful with, because it could very well turn off a student. And the other thing is, you're going to spend some time. You haven't looked at the stuff on diversity yet. There are cultural differences, where in some places around the world, a teacher hitting a student is perfectly acceptable. In some places where it's not. So you have to, understand that at some places people will say, yeah, I and I've had students in this class in the past say to me that, yeah, when I was exactly, same thing. When I went to school, I was in Europe, or, I was South America, or wherever the case is, and I was routinely hit as a child, and even in this country, if you went to Catholic school in the 50s and 60s, you could expect that, you were hit. So, yeah, it's definitely, it's the immediate thought is in this area. Oh, this kind of, corporal punishment or extreme discipline, that doesn't happen. But, depending on where you are, it certainly could.
I've had parents give me permission to hit the kid on back to school, and then I'm like, absolutely not. I'm not doing that. No way.
Yeah.
Just like if you need to like slap them up, I was like, absolutely not happening from me.
No. Yeah. That's. And you could tell my question would be, okay.
But like you said, culturally, like a lot of these people are coming from the Caribbean and Latin America, where this is the norm. Yeah. So it's crazy, to think. And I'm just like, absolutely not. I don't see it that way. Definitely not.
Of course.
I mean, even in the video, actually, when the mother was talking about her daughter getting paddled, I kind of felt that she, like, the big issue with her was the fact that it was a male administrator doing it. Like, she wasn't, it didn't seem like she was very upset about the punishment itself. She was just like, oh, it's creepy. It's a male, hitting my daughter there, in that way. So I wasn't sure if she was upset about the punishment itself or just the fact that.
My understanding about corporal punishment, I found it like fascinating that it's still legal. So I started like talking to people who live in states where it's legal, and apparently some states, parents have to sign a waiver that gives you permission to do it. Yeah. So it's not just everybody under the sun is subject to it. Like at the beginning of the year, the parent will sign some sort of documentation that allows the administration to do that. So maybe she signed the paperwork and just thought it wasn't appropriate that it was a male hitting her and would have been more comfortable being a female administrator, which is crazy regardless.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't be happy either way.
Exactly.
As a parent, I'm not sure I could, as much as I want my kids to behave, I'm not sure I could, give permission for someone just to,
Absolutely not.
to whip them if they, got out of line, because how do they know what's out of line, and that's, that's, I'm not sure I would go in that route. We'll potentially come back to the extreme part. Let's talk a little bit about Mr. Grimes. What do we think about Mr. Grimes? 1947. What do we think about Mr. Grimes?
I've never had a student refer to me as a good egg.
Okay, I could say the same thing. Yeah, he's, that Spiegel. He's a good egg. Yeah,
he's a real good egg.
Yeah. Okay. General impressions about Mr. Grimes.
I think he was trying to fight fire with fire, and it wasn't working.
What do you mean by that, Lauren?
He was just. I actually just learned this today in one of my courses that I take within my district.
Mm-hmm.
That you have to have some kind of enthusiasm. It can't just be strict all the time. And that's what he was doing until you get to the end of the video, and everyone just seems more relaxed and more of a relaxed setting.
You have to be excited about the stuff that's boring, and there are some times when we all get to it where there's stuff that I really don't want to teach this part, and if you come across like that, then it stinks. Excuse me. But if you're excited about it, the kids will get excited about it.
And they want to correct themselves on their quiz at the end. So
yep.
They all wanted to make that effort because he did.
I agree.
Daddy,
I agree.
what do I got today?
Come on,
Thank
Brian.
you, Mom.
Okay, upstairs. What else, or who else has thoughts about Mr. Grimes? There should be a lot.
He seemed to take things personally. He, right away it escalated quickly, the situation in his classroom, because it was, he took it as like disrespect to him. Whereas, he began with putting down his students and telling them this is the worst class I've ever had in a long while, and you're all lazy and this and that. And then, their response was that, to begin to kind of disrespect him, but I felt like he just took it too personally as well.
You got to be very thick-skinned as a teacher, any grade level, because I know, and being in high school for my entire career, that the kids, and I'm in an all-boys school, the kids are very, very conscientious of what buttons to push and when to push them. And they'll know, all right, this is what I have to do, and how I can do it, and what I'm going to get away with, and all that kind of stuff. And it's tough, and what's really, and I'll mention it here when we talk about, taking things personally. In this day and age, you really, really have to be careful about what you say and how you say it, because you never know who's going to be recording it. Exactly. Google the Fair Lawn special ed teacher, that got fired in 2013 for saying some inappropriate things that a teacher probably shouldn't have said. I think, but the worst thing that at the end of the video was when he told the kid to go cry to your counselor. You really can't, even though, yes, the kid had a cell phone and the kid was recording when he shouldn't have been, all that kind of stuff. You really can't say that as a teacher. And I know I've tried to make a real conscious effort that you have to be careful about what you say. You have to be careful, because even if the cell phone looks like it's off, it's not, or it's someplace you don't know. So, you have to be careful of that. And that goes along with taking things personally. You have to you have to be thick. You have to be thick, and sometimes they're going to say things that, you know, they may not necessarily mean, even though it sounds like it. You just have to roll with the punches. So who else has some thoughts about Mr. Grimes?
Hello. I don't think he motivates the students enough. Well, at the beginning of the video, he's very negative towards their learning. So by him doing that, I think it makes the students feel very insecure about their knowledge and learning, which is absolutely not okay.
How many of you would potentially call a student stupid?
No way, no.
No.
Of course, you know, it's like, you know, no one would, you just would do it. So you have to really think about the words you choose, you know, and how many times I've conversations with new teachers about, oh, it's parent teacher night, we're compliment sandwich. You know, you have to have a discussion with a kid about something, you know, that's kind of that's a tough conversation. Compliment sandwich, you know. Sometimes you just have to be cognizant of that kind of stuff, and it's difficult, you know. It's tough, but you just have to do it. You have to be very careful about how you phrase things, you know, especially if kids that aren't performing at the level where you think they should be. Sometimes you just have to, you know, you have to adjust. It's tough. Keep going. This is good stuff. This is all good stuff. Keep going. Don't be bashful. Somebody's got a smoke detector battery. There's always one every semester.
It's mine.
Always somebody. Come on, what else about Mr. Grimes? There's got to be. I know there's other stuff. I've got my usual talking points. I haven't gone to all of them yet. I'm waiting for you to mention them.
Yes.
I was just wondering, I'm sorry, was someone else speaking or?
No, go ahead.
Oh, well, it struck me like if you're in the video when towards the end, the second part of the video where he left the room and he came back and he found the student by the blackboard. Mm-hmm. And he diffused the situation. He made some jokes and sent him, you know, had him sit down. I was just curious, like I was thinking to myself, like, how do you strike that balance in the classroom where you don't want the students to think that you're too soft, but then you also don't want to be too hard the way he was in the beginning of the video. I mean, if you were to walk out and come back in and find chaos in the classroom, I'm just, you know, because I'm not a teacher yet, I don't know how I would really react in that situation.
First off, I would advise never to leave the classroom.
Well, I mean, it's going to happen at some point, I'm saying.
No, seriously, like I would never leave the classroom unattended, like never, never, never. But like you said, it's crazy. Like you gotta be humorous and exciting, but at the same time, you gotta know when to pull the reins back. It's hard. Like basically, I'm teaching freshmen this year, and for like the first month, I don't smile at all. I just don't. I don't smile, and my thing is like you can always be hard and go easy, but you can't be easy and then go hard, because then they're going to be like, well, what the hell's going on here? Right. So I think the success I've had with specifically freshmen is you come out very disciplinarian-like for the first month. You don't smile, you don't really joke, and then you kind of like as the year goes on, you kind of let the guard down a little bit, and I find that it works.
Okay, others who are in the classroom, how would you think about that? The issue with the kid at the board who's about to throw the eraser and Mr. Grimes caught him.
And I always try to befriend like the villain. Like I feel like you really, really got to butter up the villain and like get him on your side, because if you get him eating out of the palm of your hand, it's you know, containment. It's basically what it is.
True. Who else? Who else is in the classroom?
I'm not yet in a classroom. I'm actually working in St. Peter's.
Okay, but if for the anybody want to, how would you handle that? The kids about they were disrupting the class, and he walks in on it. What would you do? I'm just making notes for myself. What would you
Just to piggyback from that,
Sure.
I'm not a yeller. Like, the kids will never hear me yell. I feel like I convey everything more with a look. So if they see it in my eyes, they know.
Mhm.
Like, I don't play around like that. Like, that's not gonna fly by me. But just like one, I would never leave the room anyways. But if I did come back and saw the board, honestly, just send the kid back and then that's it. So like, I have the time where, okay, we can goof around, but then when it's time to get down to business, they know it's time. So I feel like I've developed that over the years because I was always strict, and it doesn't work with everyone. So I kind of try and do both.
What grade do you teach?
7th, 8th grade resource.
Oh, okay.
I have the old kids.
So generally, I'm just curious though. So when because everyone's saying like don't leave the classroom, but in the event that you do you generally get someone else to come sit with the class, or do you? I'm sure it happens at some
Yeah,
point.
but why would you have to step out? Like, to be honest, you don't use the bathroom as a teacher anymore.
Really?
No.
That's true.
I don't go to the bathroom ever.
Your best option would be is if there's somebody who's on like a hall duty who's right out there where you can just be like, hey, can you watch the class for a few minutes, but never leave the class unattended because it's your liability and your license on the line. So like, I don't trust those kids.
Even at the high school level.
Definitely at the high school level.
No, because I'm thinking more like elementary that, obviously very young children, but high schoolers cannot be left unattended for 5 minutes.
No.
Okay.
Not even 5 seconds. Eric stole exactly what I was going to say. I mean, you're liable for those kids.
Yeah.
Even if you throw a kid out, you say, get out in the hallway or go see the principal or whatever, and you're still liable for that kid. So I would never leave my kids unattended, because the second I do, they'll burn the room down for whatever it's a fact. Whatever if I have to walk out of the room, even if someone comes to my door, and I have to, address something, that's it. There's pandemonium behind me. So yeah, unless there's another adult who's going to take your spot. I'll give you a case in point. I'm in my sort of free time. I'm an EMT. And I'll cover for the nurse a lot. So if the nurse isn't there, so we had last year, I'm in class, and I get a call on the radio. Mr. Spiegel, we got a kid in the office with a tick. Okay, like, what would you like me to do right now? Can we send him down? I'm like, well, I'm in class right now, so someone needs to come down and cover my class.
Right.
So what do I get? I get the kid with the tick at my door. I'm like, okay, this is not what I asked for. And of course, this kid's in a little bit of discomfort, so he shows me, and I look, I'm like, yeah, you got a tick. Like, that's a really big one. So I called again to the main office. I'm like, can someone send an adult to my class so I can take this child to the nurse's office and then I can remove said tick, which I did after a grapple with this stupid thing. But I wasn't about to leave 33 juniors, without a teacher. Ain't gonna work. It's just I can't even imagine. And Eric said it beautifully. It's your license is on the line. You're in public school, tenured or not. That's conduct unbecoming. It's what's the school law phrase that I'm looking for? Not conduct unbecoming, but it's almost incompetence. It's like gross negligence. Like, you would never leave your kids unattended ever, so that would, but in 1947 it's a different story, but now you just wouldn't do it ever. So
not even 1947, because like I went to school here in Union City, and I remember lots of times, especially in high school, not all the time, but once in a while the teacher would step out, for whatever reason, a couple of minutes and come back. Like, that's why I'm asking, because it didn't seem like it was.
Oh, it definitely happens, but I would never want to do that.
No.
like even like recently I had to discipline a kid in the hallway, and basically the way that I have to do it is I keep one foot in the classroom and I'm like right here, like at the frame of the door, have the kid in the hallway, and then on my other eye on what's going on in the classroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, you know, certain times there are situations where you have to remove the kid from the environment to, you know, have a word with him. Because, you know, you don't want to put them on blast in front of all their friends, because then, you know, certain kids will just react horribly to that. So there are some times where you have to take the kid outside and kind of like talk to him. So the best advice I can give you is like stay in the frame of the door frame, and one eye on the kids and one eye on the individual.
Yep, absolutely.
And just to piggyback off what the girl said previous, a look goes a long way. Like, you don't even have to yell, you don't have to raise your voice, just that stern look. Like it just.
Every morning when I shave, I still practice the I don't know if I can do it now without laughing, but it's, you know, that.
Yes, that's pretty good.
You know, but that's 18 years now in trying to, you know, perfect that, you know. And I'm the biggest laugher. I find everything funny. I'm an alumnus of where I teach, you know, and where I work, but I find everything funny. So it's you know, you have to be, you know, you really can't sometimes. You can't. I have to think of like someone that makes me totally angry, you know, and put that in my head, because half the time these kids are goofs and it's just funny what they do.
Yeah.
But, you know, you just have to. I've learned that the look, you know, if I want them to on time to my class, I'll stand out in the hallway and I'll do this. You know, the bell's ringing and I'm doing something purposely like fidgety, you know, and they get that look like they're going to scurry down the hallway, you know, or I start like babbling like, oh yeah, you know, we could be working now, but we're not, because not everybody's here because they're late to class, and I start da-da-da-da-da, and they kind of get the message, you know.
Oh yeah, body language.
When I was a kid, and I think part of me still does, I wanted to be a professional wrestler, you know, and I look at like my favorites, like, you know, growing up, The Rock, and Hulk Hogan, and all these people that used to just talk trash, you know, and the crazy ones like Goldberg and the Road Warriors and all these, you know, and I kind of put all that together. And part of it is like, you know, you are part entertainer as a teacher, but part of that's like, you know, and they kind of get that, you know, because the freshmen still don't know what to do with me because they don't really know me that well. You know, the seniors are a different story, but at the same time, like, my line is, I'm sorry, I don't get paid enough to take your crap. And that works. You know, I haven't had a parent really, you know, call me on that one yet, but, you know, that's it. I'm standing my ground. Like, and I always tell them, and I'll tell them with trying not to laugh, say regardless of if you act out in my class tonight, there's going to be two things that'll happen. Number one, I'm going to go home and sleep tonight. Number two, a week from Friday, I'm getting a paycheck, whether you act out or whether you don't act out. You know, and generally that's, you know, and I kind of force a smile. I'm like, okay, and they're like, oh yeah, all right. You know, it's you learn, I think, after just being in the classroom, you just kind of you know what the right thing to say at the right time is, and you know, oh, I shouldn't. What I did when I started teaching, I would never do now. You know, but part of that comes with, I think, with the experience comes the confidence of that I can be a little bit different in my tactics and whatnot than I was when I first started. You know, what Eric said is true. You don't smile till Christmas, or you don't smile for the first month. You know, I love it when I'm walking down the hallway and I don't say a word and they're tucking their shirts in, putting their IDs on and all that stuff. And I'm like, oh, I didn't say a word, you know, but because, you know, I stickler for that kind of stuff. So that's, you know, and I agree with Lauren, just sometimes it's the look. It's the look, it's the fidgeting, it's the, you know, I'll stand there and look out the window and they'll stop like, oh, you guys ready? I'm sorry. Are we good now? And the sarcasm sometimes gets me in a little trouble, but, you know, they know, like, okay, we can start now. So
I think there's consistency with that too. When you're consistent all the time and you have a routine and the kids know what to expect from you, they will be like, they're trained. So if I, in the first 5 minutes of every single class, I'm greeting my kids, I was a German teacher for 12 years. We speak only German in my class. We're greeting each other in German the first 5 minutes. They know that every single day. They know if we're getting up to do like a discussion activity, where I want them, when I want them somewhere. So I think that look is part of just being consistent all the time. And when they know what to expect from you, you'd be surprised how easily they just kind of, follow along and do what you want them to.
I want to jump on that, but I'm waiting for somebody else to.
No, definitely got to train them. You got to, like she said, you got to get them used to the routine, and it takes a while, but once they get it, it could be like a beautifully well-oiled machine.
Yeah,
that's the goal.
Yeah, the routine is huge, and that's true for all grade levels. How many kids will say, even though they'll never admit it, they want a routine, they want a structure, they want a they want to know when I come in, this is what is expected of me. This is what I want. This is what you want out of me. They want to know what the rules are, and they want that. They're never going to say that they want it, but that's what kids want of any age. My oldest son's a third grader. His day is mapped out from arrival to finish. The kindergartners, same thing. So they know, okay, this is when snack is. This is when we do writer's workshop. Here's when we do morning meeting. Here's when we do math. All that, it's laid out. Boom, 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 boom. And I think that's huge. And clearly defining what your expectations are sooner rather than later is even better.
And I wanted to add to that. I mean, I'm not a teacher, but I have had experience in working in a daycare center and caring for children, either babysitting or for family members. And definitely setting the expectations is huge. I kind of never tone, and if something does, gets a little out of hand, I kind of add bass to my voice. I mean, I know it sounds silly, but I just kind of get like really assertive, like, excuse me, and this is what we're doing. Let's get back to this. And it seems to work. And, just keep being consistent with that. I mean, with the children or with like younger cousins that tend to like not even listen to their parents sometimes in front of their mom, they'll tend to listen to me once I use that tone instead of to her. And it's just like they know once we're for real right now, let's get back to business. So yeah, it's definitely important to get the routines down with them.
Absolutely critical. Routine, absolutely. Any other thoughts about Mr. Grimes? I got two more. Any other thoughts about Mr. Grimes? I agree with that. That he had a real opportunity with the kid at the board. He could have let him have it. And there are times where I've wanted to too, but he diffused that situation very well, and yes, it was scripted and staged and all that kind of stuff, but yes, it was the right thing to do at the right time, and he's really not so bad. Last year I had to step in and cover 4 classes for about 2 months, because generally I only teach 1 class during the school year because I run the Bergen's laptop program. So, but I had to sub for about 2 months, and it was all juniors. And the prevailing attitude after about 2 weeks was, "Oh, Spiegel's not the we thought he'd be." And there's a couple different words you could sub, be creative. But they were surprised because I realized, I'm like, I got a choice here. I can go in and say, you know what? I'm going to make you miserable because I don't have time for this. This was a total surprise to me, blah, 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 blah. Or I can go in and say, all right, let's make the most of it. And that's what I did. And they were kind of like, wow, this really is that bad. So surprisingly enough, I think they're still surprised, even though they're all seniors now. And then I like what Eric said about buttering up the villain, being singling out, almost being nicer to the kids that are the ones that are going to give you a problem, because if you get them on your side, then potentially by default you're going to get 6 or 8 or 10 other kids on your side. That's a big thing, trying to get the the class clown, the villain, whatever you want to call him or her, on your side. That's important too. So it's classroom management is one of those things that you just can't, you just have to watch it and you have to do it. You have to try it. You have to try things like group, a class detention, or to realize like, wow, this really isn't good, or following through when you say you're going to do something and then the kids push you, you got to do it. You have to, if it's one more, if I had the first year of teaching, I gave a class attention because I said, pretty much, if I hear one more peep out of you guys, that's it. And 3 seconds later, I got a peep. Literally, I heard peep. So I'm like, that's it. All right, you're all going. And it was a disaster because I knew it was the wrong thing to do, but I dug myself the hole, and the only way for me to save face was to punish them all. I wouldn't do it now, but that just alienated everybody. So I think that's tough. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I had a teacher, I remember in 7th grade, who we were gave out permission slips because we were going on a class trip, and everyone was very excited. And a similar situation happened where some kid was acting out, and suddenly she just decided that that's it. She just canceled the whole trip. This was she gave out the permission slips and she took them back, and everybody hated her, and it was just a disaster. From then, like when you said that, I remember that, like the group punishment. I'm like, that's just, I doubt that's ever going to work, or that's ever worked, probably.
Yeah, it's once you go down that road, you have to be prepared to carry it out all the way, And if you threaten detention, you gotta give it. If you threaten this, you gotta do it. I never had a problem with my athletes because, the question was, I'd say, I've got a kid who's acting out, and I'd say, you know what, maybe let's chat after class and listen. What time's practice today? Oh, it's 2:45. Fine. Okay. So if I keep you for personal detention till, let's say, 3 o'clock, that's 15 minutes late. And the kid's looking at me with that, all right, where's this going? I'm like, okay. So you show up to practice late. What's going to happen? I know the answer to the question I'm asking. Anybody know what's going to happen to that kid when he shows up 15 minutes late for practice? Well, forget about trouble. What's he going to have to do?
Sprints.
Dana's got it. You're going to have to run. And actually, he's not going to run. He's going to watch the whole team run because he's late. So once we got to that point and they knew, like, that's fine, we'll sit. And what are you going to do? Tell your coach that you do something else? Because I'm going to tell your coach that you were pain and you disrupted my class, and that's why you were late. So you screwed either way. So once they realized that I was perfectly willing and able to carry out on that, never a problem. And I didn't have to raise my voice or scream or anything like that. But I knew this was you can't be late to practice, otherwise you're going to run, or you're going to watch the rest of the team run, So no problem, And once I got to a point, and this didn't happen for a couple of years, until I felt comfortable with, my classroom management, with the content that I was teaching, I'm like, I say everything with a smile. That's fine, I have to be here till at least 3 o'clock, so it doesn't matter to me if we sit or not, it really doesn't. A detention to some, depending on how it's administered, is inconvenient. Some are just like, oh, it's, what's whatever. But if you can't take the bus home now, or you don't have a ride, now all of a sudden it's, oh yeah, I really don't want to end up in detention. I need to kind of keep my nose clean, or I don't want to end up with, you can't say, you're going to write, I will not be bad 500 times. Wow, since you guys are, fully versed on whatever topic I'm talking about, I think, you should do some in-depth research, a couple of pages of written reflection for tomorrow. You guys are scholars. See where I'm going with this? Like, that's not corporal punishment. It's a really thin line, but that's not corporal punishment. Because I'm tying it to the curriculum. Like, yeah, this makes perfect sense. It's an enrichment activity, whatever you want to call it, but it's not just writing for writing's sake. So, and then it's like, oh, he's serious. Yeah. So, that's part of the strategy too. But I think part of that comes with, once you feel comfortable in your own shoes as a teacher, as a classroom manager, as a content specialist, then you can go down that road. So, but I wouldn't do that the first year I was teaching. The first year I was teaching, and what advice I give to new teachers: you're in your first year, fly under the radar. You don't want to be that person who's making waves in the main office in the first year that you're teaching.
Yeah, for public schools, definitely under the radar is the way to go. For however long it is to get tenure, just do your thing, do your job, and just stay out of the social light.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's true. And if our jobs aren't difficult enough, since we are in the state views us as a role model, staying out of the limelight, which means your social media presence too.
I've seen that ruin people. It's really sad.
Yeah, and you got to be careful of the social media and pretty much when yes, I have a life outside of school. That's I no one's denying me that, but at the same time, students see me outside of school. But what's I've come to realize in the last 3 or 4 years is that parents see me outside of school too, and the parents see me outside, and I don't necessarily know that they're Bergen Catholic parents. So then it's then all of a sudden you're caught. I saw you at at the local watering hole, drinking it up or whatever, and I'm like, who the hell are you? I don't know who all the parents are. I kind of know who the kids are, but some of the parents I don't know. So that could be, you have to be careful about your public image, and how you're, I go down, my in-laws have a place down in LBI. I'm 120 miles away from home, and I still see Bergen kids. I can't escape it.
You guys are everywhere.
Yeah, and it's not like I'm in a town high school. I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
So
with Facebook too, something I ran the new teacher academy at 100 Central, and they thought that it was safe to friend each other. They're like, oh, we're just friending other teachers. And I said, yeah, but you have to worry about some of the teachers are going to friend the kids the day they graduate.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous in my opinion. So you've got some teachers who are friending the kids literally on June 16th, the day after. Those kids still have younger siblings in the school who are friends with other kids in the school. So what you're not thinking about maybe is, oh, well, I'll just vent about work on John Smith's Facebook page, who's also a teacher at my high school. And you don't know that colleague of yours has friended a bunch of recently graduated kids who are now taking screenshots of your vent about work and passing it on to their friends. So my rule has just always been, I don't talk about work on Facebook ever.
My God.
No.
Yeah,
never.
Seriously. And the crazy, it's funny that you say that because I teach seniors. So I'm the person that like you said on June 16th, they're like, hey, hit me up, or let me get your contact information. And quite honestly, I've had those kids for 3 years. So I want to be connected with them socially because I want to see where they amount to. Because that's part of, the allure of being a teacher is shaping these people for the rest of their life. So what better way to keep in contact? But I never use Facebook. I have my default picture is a picture of my dog. My last status was from when Jeremy Lin was on the Knicks, which was 10 years ago. It's I don't use it. I don't use it at all. But it's nice to stay connected. But you're right. There are people that are so unprofessional on there that complain and do things. It's insane.
And then they're the same ones that complain, why did I get fired?
Yeah, exactly. And take pictures of themselves drinking and stuff like that. It's so ridiculous.
Now I've gotten good at the selfie because I'm an only child, so there's no bad selfie on my camera roll. But at the same time, most of them are if it is something that I'll use for a profile, it's me with some kind of nature behind me. I couldn't imagine. Number one, I can't imagine photographing myself. Let's make sure we can all see the label. Photographing myself with alcohol in my hand. Second of all, I know in a Catholic school with protecting God's children, there are rules against that. And I'm supposed to, if I'm at a school event and there are children present, I'm not supposed to drink at all. That's what protecting God's children says. Third of all, I'm even cautious about when I'm somewhere. My wife and I were at a thing for one of her students who got enlisted in the Navy, and this was a whole bunch of years ago. And they had a going away party for him, and the kid wasn't 21, and everybody was drinking. So, all right, fine, whatever. We're playing good sports. So of course, my wife decides, I don't think she'd ever played beer pong before. Like, oh great. So she wasn't good at it, and I suffered because of that. I was her, designated drinker. And it was all fun and games, and all of a sudden, someone took out, because at the time they're really, I guess this was 2007. Like, it wasn't like you had a camera phone you do today. So all of a sudden, and I was like, this was before she lost even more. I'm like, stop, put the camera away, or we're leaving. And everybody, it was like a party kill. But I'm like, no. I'm a teacher. This is what I do for a living. You're not taking a picture of me playing beer pong. Just not happening. So a lot to keep in mind that other people. Go to bed. Come on, go. We're going to be wrapping it up soon because we're going to I got to get them to bed. Any last thoughts about classroom management? Anything that we talked about tonight? Anybody? I hope that at least you come away with some some thoughts and stuff. And even if not, you could say, hey, I went to class tonight and I didn't get off my couch. So it's something that I think you're going to have to experience to truly learn. And I don't mean that in a derogatory kind of way. I just mean that you need to be in the classroom for a while. You need to, understand this is how I do things, and you have to kind of just try it out. And then all of a sudden you realize, oh, okay, I won't do this again, or I'm going to try something different, or this and that. So, it's certainly something you want to, and don't be afraid to talk to other people about it. It's a lot. I spend a lot of time when I can looking at other schools, talking to other people. Hey, how do you do this? How do you flip your classroom? How do you differentiate instruction? How do you deal with unruly kids? All that kind of stuff. So it's a lot. You can learn a lot from other people too. So anybody else? Any closing thoughts? Well, the rerun will be posted to YouTube. Should go up in a couple of minutes. I'll provide everybody with the link tomorrow. So those that couldn't join us can watch this comedy show in its entirety. And I thank you all for joining. Hopefully this is something that add this to your toolbox worth of things you could do. You could certainly do this, with your if you're in a spot where you could do this kind of stuff with your classes. It's really simple to do. You're doing the same thing I would do if we were all sitting together in Jersey City. So all right. If you need me for anything, please reach out, and certainly if I need to if we need to have a face-to-face conversation, we could do something like this. So that's certainly on the table. All right. So with that, if there's nothing else, I'm going to bid everybody good night. Thank you for coming.
Good night.
It's been a pleasure. Good night. Sleep well. Arrive home safely. And Dana, thank you for being our special guest star tonight. And at some point during the week, tomorrow, whatever, if you wanna chat or something, that's cool.
Yeah, we'll touch base.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. Good night, everybody.